Good evening. My name is Dustin McCrory. I'm a STEM teacher at Amant Middle School in Ascension Parish, Louisiana, and a doctoral student at LSU, where my work focuses on STEM education and critical digital literacy. This presentation is a synthesis of 4 weeks of work examining technology leadership, what it looks like, what it requires, and what it's missing in the context where I work every day. The argument I want to make from the outset is this: Ascension Parish is not short on technology, it is short on leadership thinking about technology. Those are very different problems, and they require very different solutions. I want to give you a sense of where I'm speaking from, because context shapes everything in this kind of work. Amant Middle School is one of 9 middle schools in Ascension Parish, a growing suburb district south of Baton Rouge. The district has made significant investments in technology. Every student has a Chromebook. Each middle school received a high-performance computer lab upgrade. My classroom has an $18,000 industrial 3D printer. I write from a dual vantage point. I observe the technology decisions as they're made at the district level, and I experience their consequences directly in the classroom. I also bring a doctoral focus on critical digital literacy and a role in my local union that gives me some visibility into how these decisions get made institutionally. To structure my analysis, I used the CoSN Essential Skills Framework, the Consortium for School Networking's 2026 guidance for K-12 technology leaders, as a kind of evaluative lens. Applying the CoSN framework as a lens, I assess technology leadership across 4 areas. On leadership and vision, effort exists, but it's not coherent. Technology rarely appears as a standing agenda item connected to the school's vision. The most visible example of the communication problem, a smartboard replacement, was announced via email on the last day of school, after teachers had already left, asking them to prepare equipment for pickup. On data use, this is the sharpest gap. The district has a culture of data-driven goals on paper, but the data is consistently misread. A cohort of my 7th grade ELA students grew by over 15 academic index points, and administration's response was to question why scores were lower than the previous year's students. They were comparing entirely different populations. This pattern repeats across grade levels and departments every year. On investment and planning, the district is not afraid to spend over $500,000 on high-performance laptops, but the charging stations were incompatible. An $18,000 industrial 3D printer in my classroom, with no budget for proprietary filament that it requires. Strong financial commitment, inconsistent execution. On professional learning, PLC time goes to pacing alignment. New technology gets 1 or 2 days notice. There's no structured space for teachers to build technology integration capacity together. One of the most striking findings in preparing this brief was that Ascension Parish does not publish a formal education technology plan. This district advertises a one-to-one technology environment and highlights various initiatives, but no document exists that addresses vision, equity, professional learning, implementation, evaluation, or sustainability as a coherent whole. The absence of a plan is itself a leadership observation. In the absence of a local plan, I turn to the Louisiana State Educational Technology Plan as the most relevant framework. The state plan is genuinely thoughtful. It identifies 5 strategic goals, positions technology as a means rather than an end, and aligns closely with the 2024 National Educational Technology Plan on digital equity, professional learning, and infrastructure. But the national plan draws a distinction that matters for Ascension Parish: the digital use divide, the gap between having a device and using it for meaningful learning. A student who has a Chromebook every day and clicks through a world languages program until it shows the correct answer has access. They don't have learning. Until the district builds a plan that moves from procurement to pedagogy, that gap won't close. Artificial intelligence has arrived in schools, not as a classroom tool, but as a policy challenge, an ethics challenge, and a literacy challenge. And most institutions are still figuring out what that means. To evaluate Louisiana's approach, I used 2 UNESCO competency frameworks and the AI for K-12 5 Big Ideas. Together, these frameworks point toward a clear standard. Genuine AI literacy means students who understand how AI works, its mechanisms, its limitations, its societal consequences, not just students who use AI responsibly. Louisiana State's AI guidance is worth acknowledging as a genuine effort in a national landscape where many states have offered little more than plagiarism warnings. It uses the SAMR model to scaffold AI integration, and its transparency principle gestures towards literacy, not just compliance. But the document has real limits. It leads with risk management. Challenges and plagiarism mitigation come before integration and instruction. It positions teachers primarily as recipients of training rather than professionals with their own agency in relation to AI. And the SAMR model treats AI as a more sophisticated version of existing classroom technology. But AI isn't a better projector. It's stochastic. It generates content. And it makes decisions that aren't always explainable, even when prompted to explain themselves. In Ascension Parish, there is no formal AI policy and no AI literacy curriculum. Drawing on Paulo Freire, I'd argue that positioning students as passive consumers of AI rather than critical agents capable of interrogating it is a choice, and it's the wrong one. Responsible AI leadership here means moving beyond acceptable use policies toward a sequential, mandatory AI literacy strand from kindergarten through 12th grade. The CoSN 2026 Driving K-12 Innovation Report identifies 6 major hurdles for K-12 technology leadership: digital equity, cybersecurity and data privacy, human capacity and change leadership, AI governance, evidence and impact, and sustainability and procurement. When I read through that list, I recognized all 6 in Ascension Parish. The most visible challenge is what CoSN calls tool sprawl, and it defines this district's technology problem more than anything else. Let me give you the concrete picture. Each middle school received 25 high-performance laptops, primarily to run a flight simulator program used in one 7th grade STEM class across 9 schools. That's nearly $500,000. An $18,000 industrial 3D printer sits largely inoperable in my classroom because the proprietary filament costs between 3 and 12 times the industry average, and there's no budget to sustain it. Students spend the first 30 minutes of every school day on a world languages program they've learned to click through until it shows the correct answer. No accountability. 30 minutes of instructional time, gone, daily. And we recently adopted a new platform for assigning student work, despite already having Google Classroom. The new platform embeds Google's own tools inside it, less intuitively than what it replaced. CoSN's diagnosis is clear. Without a shared evidence mechanism, nothing gets evaluated, nothing gets cut, and spending continues regardless of impact. Beyond tool sprawl, teacher retention is the top hurdle every year. And it's not just about salary. It's about whether teachers feel trusted as professionals. We don't. AI governance is unaddressed at both levels. And cybersecurity responsibility has been quietly assigned to librarians, which is a structural problem, not a personnel one. The through line: technology decisions are made without coherent strategy, evaluated without consistent evidence, and implemented without adequate support. My recommendations are grounded in the analysis across the full brief. I've tried to sequence them from immediate, no-budget actions to longer-term systemic changes. First, conduct a technology inventory at the building level. Before any new purchase, before any policy development, leadership needs an honest accounting of what tools exist, how often they're used, at what cost, and whether there's any evidence they are improving outcomes. This doesn't require budget approval. It requires asking the question. Second, reframe how teachers talk about technology concerns. I don't like this tool is easy to dismiss. This tool costs students 30 minutes of instructional time daily with no documented impact on learning is a professional, evidence-grounded claim. Building-level leaders should help teachers develop that language. Third, develop a formal technology plan. The district needs a publicly available document that addresses vision, equity, professional learning, infrastructure, implementation, and evaluation, developed with genuine stakeholder input, including teachers, parents, and administration. Fourth, establish an AI policy grounded in literacy, not only compliance. Define what AI literacy looks like at each grade level. Specify what professional learning teachers need. Evaluate whether students are developing understanding of AI systems, not just whether they're using them responsibly. Fifth, restructure professional learning so that professional development precedes technology rollouts rather than following them, and so that PLC time builds integration capacity rather than just aligning pacing. Let me close where this work brought me. Completing this brief clarified something I thought I already knew but hadn't named with enough precision. The problem in Ascension Parish is not a lack of technology. It is a lack of leadership thinking about technology. Those are very different problems with very different solutions. What this course helped me understand is that these failures have names. The CoSN framework names them as gaps in strategic planning and stakeholder engagement. The UNESCO AI frameworks name them as deficits in human-centered values and professional capacity. Freire names them as a choice, conscious or not, between education that positions people as agents and education that positions them as recipients. Having those names matters. Unnamed problems are harder to address. I came into this course focused primarily on what I could see in my classroom: the 3D printer, the language program students click through, the smartboard email sent after everyone had gone home. I still think those examples matter. They are not anomalies, they are symptoms. But I leave more interested in the systems that produce those symptoms than in the symptoms themselves. That shift from the visible dysfunction to the invisible structures behind it is what I think becoming a technology leader actually requires. I have a role in my local union. I have a doctoral research focus on critical digital literacy. I have a classroom where students encounter technology every day, mostly without understanding it. These 3 positions together give me more leverage than I've used. This brief has helped me see that more clearly, and I intend to use it. Thank you.